Hello, this is Chris from Deus Ex Machina, and I am with
Dave from Rampant Wolf Games.
And we've got Gia.
Zaya.
Roll the clip. No, actually, the funny thing is, if you look up XIA in pronunciation, most of the time it's Zhao. So I think I should just call it Zhao just to annoy people. Because in I think it was Mandarin Cantonese, it's XIA is Zhao. And then it's Xia. So it's not an X, it's a sh sound. So when
Xia.
So it should be Xia.
Xia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not Xia, it's not Xia, it's Xia.
I can go with Xia.
So that's what I call it. I call it Xia.
Fair enough. I can go with Xia.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
So no, that's controversial. I'm making
it is. Actually.
I'm establishing that right now for posterity.
You mean posterity? Posterity.
Posterity. Words. That it is Xia.
Okay. So
a game by Cody Miller.
Yes. For those who haven't played this game, basically, it is a. I was going to say 4X, but it's not. It's Explore. Yep.
It's Explore, and that's about
pretty
it.
much it. I was going to say, yeah, it's Explore. It's a 1X space game.
Specifically, it is billed as a sandbox-style competitive space adventure.
Mm-hmm.
I know that because I'm reading on the back of the box.
Yes. And so basically, you get to explore the universe, but there is many ways to win the game. You can either fight other people, you can fight NPCs.
You can be a merchant.
You can accomplish missions.
Yep. You
can just be like, you know what, I'm just going to go and I'm going to be a freight cargo hauler back and forth. You know, you can be a pirate. It really is limitless for what you can do. You can be a passenger hauler, so you can be just like, you know, WestJet. Canadian joke there.
Yep.
You know, there is so many ways.
You'd be Air Canada. Come on, you wouldn't be as good as WestJet.
You mean Scare Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, but there is a lot of ways to win this game, which I enjoy. It doesn't, you know, it's not, when I pull out this game, it's not just, people are just like, well, how do I win? It's just like, well, how about you ask me how you don't win?
Yeah, because everything gets you points.
Everything gets you points.
If you trade, if you empty your if you trade 2 cargo, at least 2 cargo, you get a point. You complete a mission, you get a point. You explore certain areas, you get points. If you roll a natural 20 on a die, you get a point. You can buy points for 5,000 credits. There's about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
If you blow up an enemy player, when you upgrade, you get a point. When you blow up an NPC, you get a point. Almost like everything gets you a fame point. You look at somebody long enough, intently in their eyes, you get a fame point. There's about 8 or 9. And that's actually the one problem that people some had. They keep on forgetting, oh, right, I get a fame point for this. Oh, right, I get a fame point for this.
And that's one of the things about this game that I do enjoy is you can end up playing this and have a different experience. Consciously have a different experience every single time you play it up to a certain amount, because you can be like, okay, I'm going to be the jerk pirate this time. Okay.
Well, it's a variation. I'd say the variety of gameplay is depending on 2 really specific factors. The most dominant one being the layout of your tiles at the beginning, especially with the expansion, because that'll tell you what you have as a capacity to do.
Yes.
If you, like in the base game, you could get 3 base tiles that don't have any planets, so it's not really a lot of people to trade with.
Nope.
In your starting game, it recommends a certain arrangement, which gives you the opportunity to trade.
Yes.
So you can be a trader in the first game quite easily.
Yes.
But in your second game, especially if you employ the Embers of a Forsaken Star, you could very well get a beginning arrangement which have no planets whatsoever. So you can't trade.
Yeah.
My second game, we didn't get a potential trading opportunity for an hour into the game.
Yeah.
So trading was not an option.
Yeah.
So at that point, it had to be through missions or through
combat.
But and that brings up the second factor for a variety of gameplay, and that is the intentions of the group you're playing with.
Yes, and the size of group.
Very much so. The larger the game, you start off with more map, but you will definitely be colliding with other players a bit more, and it'll depend very much on. But I also noticed, because of how simplistic the beginning ships are, it's really tricky to outfit them for combat.
It is.
You have to, and then of course other players know, like, well, I can see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and the funny, what I think is hilarious is that if you design your beginning ship to be combat based, you're not particularly good at it, because you only get 3,000 creds, 4,000 in embers, so you can't really buy a lot. And if you could buy a lot, you still wouldn't be able to fit it in your ship. So you don't really become this famous pirate until you get to phase 2 or phase 3, and by then everyone knows what's up your case and can keep their distance from you.
Exactly. So let's jump right into it. So, component quality. How did you figure the components were in this game?
Oh, this game is magnificent.
Yeah.
The fact that it comes with 21 plastic miniatures and they're painted, not particularly well, but the fact that it's painted at all,
and I don't have to do it.
I mean, the art style on the ship cards is far better. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they even tried to mimic the paint job on the image with the paint job on the miniature is really cool. I love the massive variety of designs. There's a wide variety. It definitely, talking about theme for a second, it gives you the impression that this is a world that's existed for hundreds and hundreds of years, and the ships are from every culture.
Yeah.
Like, there's different planets, different cultures have different ships, and that's why you have things that look like the Queen Cruiser from Phantom Menace, and then you see something that looks like a Firefly.
Yes.
I love the art design's really solid. The ship design's really solid. There's the
metal coins.
Oh yeah, metal coins are awesome.
And
non-round
metal coins in the retail edition.
Yeah,
that's the coolest part for me.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. There's 5 different types of trading cubes. I know some people don't like cube management.
Yeah, I think it goes up as you include the expansion.
You get the expansion, you add Ember.
I think there's also more cube types.
No, it still sticks with. It still stick with that basic 5 types with the add Ember, with Embers of a Forsaken Star. But I like the fact that, like, 2 of them are transparent for no reason, and the other 2 are just solid, because they're like, well, it's plasma, it's going to be transparent. The dice are really good. Yeah, there's a lot of production design. I really enjoy it. The little lattices of the weapons are really easy to understand. But yeah, everything rises or falls is on the miniatures.
Yeah, exactly.
If those were standees, the game
wouldn't.
The legendary status this game has been getting, especially just in the last year or two, is entirely defined by that. And the fact that they are sticking with it, and the expansions and the offshoots keep doing that. There's still miniatures on standees that are pre-painted. That's pretty epic.
Yeah, this game was actually hard to find for the longest time because it did so well. Initially,
I actually bought mine retail.
Yeah, so did I.
But that was not easy.
It was like, hard.
It was on the wish list for 6 months till it popped up.
Exactly. That was the same way too. It was just kind of like, come on. And then when it came out, I was like, bye. Yeah. Didn't care what else.
Yeah, but Embers, not a chance. Embers never showed up. I had to. It was in. It was only until.
No, it did. I did find it.
Well, for me, I couldn't find it. It never popped up in my search. It wasn't until their Kickstarter got relaunched, just last year in 2018, that I managed to finally pick up Embers as well as all the other stuff that he was offering.
Yeah, which is part of the thing, which sometimes I think drives the renown of this game, is because it is hard to find.
Yeah, it seems like he does a Kickstarter, runs a certain amount of stock, dumps the rest in retail, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
So it can become a supply and demand. I'm surprised this game isn't going for a premium on eBay.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Because I mean, when it came down to, for me, when I got the Embers of Forsaken Star, I ended up actually contacting a retailer, and I'm like, "Are you guys getting this?" Because I'd missed the Kickstarter at the time, and this was before the most recent one. And they said, yeah, they're like, actually, no, let's look into it. So they actually ended up ordering it in for me.
Oh, wow.
And then I paid for
For me, I was waiting on the 4 big Canadian game retailers.
Yeah.
2 of them didn't have it listed at all. And 2 of them did, and I just put them on wish list and waited. And the moment I saw it popped up, order that one day, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a great board game.
And then we waited 8 months to play it because I felt we couldn't play it as 2-player.
Yeah.
Until we got Embers. Turns out that's not true at all. You can play the game with 2 players in any player count.
Exactly.
Which annoyed my fiance because we waited so long to play it.
All right, so let's talk about mechanics. I can't really think of a mechanic in this game that annoyed me.
Oh.
But maybe I'm wrong.
I wouldn't say you're wrong. I'll say I'll humbly disagree.
Okay, fair enough. Which one annoyed you?
I don't making sure if you make sure your statement because.
No, that is my statement. So what's your?
He's like, there's nothing wrong with this game. Like
no, I can't remember.
Well, let me tell you. This game is considered a sandbox style game, so it doesn't tell you what to do. Which we'll go into thematics. I'll mention the word shallow ocean a couple times when it comes to the idea of sandbox because there's 2 games you can compare this to, video games.
Okay.
One is something like Mass Effect, and Mass Effect is a very, very deep lake. It's not a very large ocean. It's a lake, but it's very deep with a lot of content.
Fair enough.
But there's not a lot of. They don't have a bazillion places to go, but they put a lot of content in the places you can go. You compare that to something like Red Dead Redemption or Fallout, which I call a shallow ocean, which means you can go everywhere, but there's no depth. So that's basically how this game works. It's sandbox style. And that's why I'm always, whenever someone says complaining about sandbox, I really don't mind because it actually fits both positive and negative. So mechanically, you gain a ship. There's some wonderful fluff on the back, right? Which part of what I'll say later, you should totally read. Read it out loud. Get the impression that there's some semblance of story and setting in this game by reading out the fact that you have a linoleum floor and cashmere seats and stuff like that. The fact that I was using, just by coincidence, upgrading from rusted old reliable hunk of junk to another rusted old hunk of junk, and my fiance was constantly buying repurposed Starliners and stuff. Really fascinating stuff. And then you get this lattice, you kind of position best you can. You can flip them around upside down, get them to fit. And as you get larger ships, you can fit more components. But at the end of the day, a lot of the game is determined by the rolling of 4 dice.
Yes.
There is nothing within the game's mechanic that allows you to mitigate that dice roll in any way unless you pay money to do it. So the game is... You put an action token. It's almost like a worker placement because you have 4 meeples, which are your 4 action tokens. Yes. And you can do the hardest thing for people to get their heads around is the fact that you can do as many actions as you want. Any actions that don't require your action tokens, you can just keep on doing them. You can mine and mine and mine until you either blow up or you've mined what you wanted, right? And it's like, how many actions do you get? You get as many as you want. You get those 4 action tokens for activating your outfits, but that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really good. I love the action orientation. I love 95% of the game's mechanics. I adore the energy system where you can recharge you bring back your meeples back to your base board by spending energy. And when you get back to a planet, you refuel energy. I think it's kind of weird that it's in the business phase. So you can't go to a planet and recharge and go out. You have to go to a planet and stop there on your turn. But I do like the fact that they made the point that it refills completely. You don't have to spend energy to re-energize your markers. Otherwise, you start your turn and you have to re-energize your markers, and suddenly you start every turn down in energy. Yes. So that was smart. There are little things they put in to make the game mechanically sound. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is determined by that freaking die roll. Like you get a die, like. I bought a D12 engine in my first game, first out of the box. Literally, 80% of my storage capacity was occupied by 1 engine bay. No shields, no weapons. Literally, it was just a high-speed cargo hauler. And then my fiance had a D6 one, and she kept on stating on a stack of carpet samples, swearing that the reason why I was dominating that game was that I could literally move so much faster than she was. She was always rolling low, and I was just rolling high. I mean, I could roll low, but there was a good chance I would roll high. And so I could go anywhere I wanted. And she was just getting... And then the second time we played, she wasn't going to make that mistake. She bought the D12 engine. I bought a D8 engine. But she kept on complaining how low she kept on rolling. And that's just how it is. And the same thing goes with the die 20. You go to a mining space, you roll a die 20. If it's 1 to 10, you take that much damage. If it's 11 to 20, you succeed in whatever that task is.
Yeah.
And if you roll a 10, you are screwed.
Yep.
Because there's no shield.
Catastrophic failure.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you have the die 12 shield. I don't know, because there's a die 6 shield, die 8. I think there's a die 12 shield.
I think it might be.
And even then, it's just like you have to roll high on that die. So once again, it's entirely luck. I mean, for me, second game, I went into a path of a comet. This is an Embers. And the comet needed to roll a 2 to destroy me. It rolled a 2. I blew up. That was it. I was dead. Right? Now, thankfully in the game, there's no real punishment. There's a little bit of punishment for you just reset. You respawn. Right? Thankfully. So, and I also state the fact that I still won that game despite that. So I kept on thinking, you roll dice enough, eventually, just the average out. But except the fact that in the game, you can do things that allows you to mitigate it, especially with Embers. You can get this thing called the GTS, which gives you a +2 to your roll up to your maximum result of that roll. One ship allows you to spend energy to reroll. So everybody, you can find things or buy things that'll increase your capacity.
Yeah.
But if you don't have those items or can't acquire those items and you roll really badly at the beginning, you can end up playing catch-up. Good example with me. I had a ship that had a turbo booster, and I had a D8 engine. And I had a roll. I ended up getting a GTS, so I got a +2 to my roll.
Yeah.
So I could. So in one turn, when I upgraded my engine to a D12, I quite literally in one turn, there is a type of title you can get which allows you to get fame points, and it says complete 2 missions in 1 turn. And Nicole's like, that seems almost impossible. In 1 turn, I went from one side of the map all the way to the other to finish a mission. Started a mission, and then moved all the way to the middle of the map to complete it in 1 turn. Because literally 1 turn, I rolled 12, used my turbo boosters, added 8 to that movement, and literally flew across the map. And on top of that, I had a shield that had an Enviro shield onto it, which allowed me to maximize my die roll against an environmental effect. So there are things you can get to mitigate that.
Yeah.
But until you get those or find those or get given those through these random kind of achievements, you can end up really suffering. So one of the things I've noticed, of course, is that the game gives you this lattice of score points.
Yeah.
Which I think is hilarious because at no point have I ever played to 5. You play to 5 and then someone says, well, we can keep playing. So you play to 10. And someone says, well, we can keep playing to 10. And you play to 50. I say, we'll play to 5. And then I get to 5 and then someone's like, well, let's keep playing. And so we go to 10, like, let's just keep going to 20. And at 20, we draw the line because it's been 2.5 hours and we want to stop. And I've noticed, of course, at least with my games, that once somebody gets that I wouldn't say an engine going, but once they start getting a couple of really good mods and getting a lead, it's really hard to catch up.
Yes.
Because, once again, if a couple bad rolls can determine that. And yeah, I blew up in the first game, but that was the first turn. Turn. And I lost my turn, but I still had an engine that could go 13 into a turn.
Yeah.
So that die rolling, the fact that there's no inbuilt mechanic, I said, you should be able to spend energy to do re-rolls. And then I found out one of the ships had that as a mod. And I realized every single fix to the system, he put in as a part or a special ability. And it means as the game is on its own, it's incredibly unfair because it's incredibly random. So the only way to mitigate that is to pick a ship that you like that gives you something that allows you to mitigate one of the weird mechanics in the game. Because just like, die shuffling, tokens, and relics, there's about 12 different random components in the game, and you throughout the game allows you to mitigate 3 or 4 of them. Right? And that's what I noticed about the game, which means when the game begins, you have to look at the map, look at what you have, and then do what you think is best statistically to work in your favor, regardless of what you want to do, which can be really disheartening, where you go, well, I don't want to be a pirate, but right now that's the only thing I can do. Loth is the only planet that's popped up. What do I do? So it can be a little difficult where that random pull, both with die rolls, tiles, can create a game that you may not enjoy as much. I enjoy the hell out of Xia. I really do. But I wish there was Xia. I just wished there was just at least one one of those cards, one of those things was given to everybody, so they didn't have to be slaves to those die rolls. Yeah. I think the spending 1 energy to roll a die and having to keep that second result is a simple, easy solution, so much so that one ship gets it. I'd say give that ship another one and give that to everybody, because I think that it's nothing frustrates you more than rolling a die roll and then moving one square, because you look at the game going, I've used all why is my ship so unreliable? Like, why is it I can't move? And you with the tug hauler suddenly moves as fast as you do. I mean, it's interesting because this level 3 ship, there's this long tug, this giant cargo ship.
Yeah.
Its impulse is 1. So when you flip that impulse token, you're not getting any extra movement. But I still had a die 12 with a turbocharger on it, so it still moved faster than anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, every ship is determined by the cargo module, the number of squares, basically, and then impulse, and then the amount of energy. I wish there was something else. I mean, there you have the action card. Those action cards are not equal. No. There are some action cards that are not equal. I noticed that too because Embers retconned 3 of them, and then the new expansion, Mission and Powers, gave you all new powers, and those are certainly not equal either. Oh my god, some of them are really insane. One ship in particular, it had a really stupid ability where you could use the ability of a player next to you. Like, it has to be like adjacent on the square. When does that ever happen?
Yeah.
And then its new ability allows it to use another outfit 1 additional time, which means you could use an engine 4 times in a turn. In case you're wondering how I was able to go across the map and back in 1 turn, was because of that. So yes, mechanically I love the game, but I feel that it can be a bit random. Like, you roll natural 20, you get a fame point.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. Guess there's that, yeah. Theme.
Once again, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, Shallow Ocean. I'll state it again. That's what I was getting at. The setting itself, I loved. When we first played the game, I made a point. Every time a planet got uncovered, I would read the text out loud. Every time we get a ship, I would read out loud the specs and my opening little, like, when you acquire the ship, there's a little story slug. Because I was desperate for some immersion for this game. If you don't, and as just first time you play it, do so. Don't read the fluff until you play the game, and then read the fluff. So when a planet appears, you read all the fluff, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's neat." And go, "This is a ripoff of Arrakis because that's in the game."
Yep.
You read off your thing, and you read this off. You read your achievement when you upgrade from one ship to another, and if you do that, then there is something measuring a story setting, but I find it annoying that every time he's come out with an expansion, both Embers and Mission and Powers, at no point has he tried to dive into that setting. It's always been more stuff. You want five resources wasn't enough, which it was, by the way. How about another? How about gravity wells and ice asteroids? I like the fact that there were dead worlds you can scavenge relics from, but the relics are tokens and have absolutely no story point. You're not revealing anything. How about new missions? What missions are there? Now you're a freightliner. Or and then you have events. Events are cool. You get events with Embers, and the events are all bad. They're just annoying. I drew one, and the guy who draws it, which is usually the guy in the lead, because that's when you move, when you move up to a point, you uncover an event. You have rats. Like, okay, I have rats. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. You have rats. There's nothing else. In another event, there's a race. You race try to get as many action events as possible, and it's a race, and then you get points. And like, is there nothing? And has he made no attempt to create to give us at least Red Dead Redemption and Fallout had the best example of this. The game that matches this game the best was an old 90s Origin Systems game called Privateer.
No, didn't play it.
It's an old Origin game. It's in the Wing Commander universe. The sequel is incredibly awful because even though it starred Clive Owen and Christopher Walken, I kid you not. The first one, it's in Wing Commander universe. You're a merchant. You can be a pirate, or you can kill people and so forth. You fly from planet to planet. There is the storyline for this game. If you go to Wikipedia, it is 4 lines. 4 sentences. The story for that game is 4 sentences. And that's still a better story than this game.
Okay.
Because I was about, 10 hours into playing. I remember I played Privateer for God knows how many hours before I realized, oh, there's a story? And then I realized I had skipped it. No, I lost it. I literally lost the story. So I had to start the game entirely from scratch and then remind myself to follow the story. And I thought, that there's some impetus to keep on playing other than I'm awesome. And there was, and then the game ended. I'm like, well, okay, that was something. This game doesn't even have that. It doesn't even have something. So when you win the game, you flip it over and you read this achievement, and it's just, you're awesome. Give yourself a high five. The president loves you. The emperor adores you. I'm like, okay. And like that's it? Like, they're all like that. You're famous. This whole thing is just to be famous. And it's just like, would it kill you? Would it kill you to have something? Couldn't the events have been story-based? Couldn't the missions have had, like, you know how much I would love if he did a near and far with this? If there were private story points that another player would read out to you, and you had to make decisions, and you have this. I mean, the fact that he's done three Kickstarters, the original Embers and then the Mission to Powers, which was, I have to admit, I wouldn't say disappointing because I got Embers out of it, but there wasn't a lot in that Kickstarter. It's a deck of cards, and then you get this one extra ship. And, like, I remember cracking it open and like, oh, well, that's nice. Well, I got Embers. But if that was the whole Kickstarter, I knew going into it, but I'm really hoping for the next time he does this, that he puts a little bit more effort into it. Because the Mission and Powers expansion, it's a $6 deck of cards.
Yeah.
I didn't need it. I mean, the Mission deck is already this big.
Yeah.
Adding another 30 more didn't really help things.
Fair enough.
All right, that was my rant of the setting. What did you think?
I thought the game actually does the theme really well. I think you're just too... you want every game to have a story, and I'm okay with it not having a story. Because what it does with the theme, I feel like the game is more targeted to being... You want to be like Han Solo. So you want to be famous. You want to complete that Kessel run, or in this case, it's a freight run. Yeah. You know, and that's how you're getting fame points. So I think it's targeted. If you want story, this is not a game for you. Then, if you want to just be the person who does the best, and you know, you talk about the fact that if you don't buy those equipment, you can't mitigate die rolls. I think that was a conscious decision because part of it is the way I think if as a designer, if he was looking at it, was kind of like, I'm going to give you the ways you can mitigate stuff, but you've got to figure that out.
You got to buy them.
And you got to figure out to buy them.
Yeah.
And if you don't buy them, then it's your own damn fault.
To my issue, and they gave you an extra 1,000 creds in Embers because they realized you can't do anything to mitigate it with 3, but at least you could get an engine and get a GTS and still have an extra money with 4.
Yeah.
But like I said, you're a slave to the rolls for the first 45 minutes, half an hour of the game.
Yeah.
At least with Embers, there's a snowball's chance you can mitigate it, which was something.
How do you feel play length?
Well, it's hard for me to judge play length because
you've only ever played with 2 players.
Well, no, it's not that. I mean the fact that, well, if you know how to mitigate play, the moment you get to a business phase, your round can end, the other person can start. I don't know. That's a homebrew rule everyone should use. Yes. The moment you hit the business phase, your turn's over, next person starts. You just do your business phase and then your status phase without anyone else having to. If you need to upgrade your ship, no one's waiting for you.
No.
That'll eat an hour right there if everyone has to wait for someone else to pick a ship. So yeah, there are ways to mitigate that. And so once you move around, if you know your job right, you can get that done pretty fast. I'm pretty fast on a turn. There's only a few times where I got a little bit of analysis paralysis. I just think it's funny that every single time I played, we just refused to stop the game early because you can set the goal line at 5 and be over in 35, 40 minutes. But it's an incredibly underwhelming game because I've never got to a phase 2 ship and got to 5 victory points. I've gotten to 5 victory points without even upgrading. Yeah. So like, why play the game if you can't even buy a new ship?
Exactly.
Right? You get your ship between 5 and 10. You can get your third ship between 15 and between 10 and 15 sometimes, and then it's a straight pass until 20. You want to play that. So is the game good running length? No, because it's actually 2.5 hours long. You can play it for 45, but I don't know anybody who ever has. I mean, do you play the game to 5, 10, or 15?
No, but by the same token, also, actually, no, I think I have, but that will then segue into the next one, which is scalability, where this game is set for 1 to 5 people, 3 to 5 people, and I've actually played it with 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Because you can scale this game up easily, adding in another player.
It's not hard. If there's enough tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 ships, which there is when you use Embers.
Yeah.
There's nothing. In fact, that's the only thing I'll bring up mechanically as well, is that it's a very different game when you're playing with a large player count because you're constantly
bumping into each other.
Yeah. And then you have to be really careful who you're playing with because you could have a lot of predatory people out there.
And that's exactly it. And the thing, too, is that he actually released something for the game, and you used to be able to get it. I don't know if you can get it anymore. It's called a dev kit. And it actually gave you the tiles and all the components blank. So you could actually design your own. But you could also then turn around and also use, like, so I included another player who was white. I included another player who was purple, like, because I had those components. And so I was able to do that where I could add more to it. And the other thing, too, I found was that the homebrew community for this game is huge. If you look on BGG and you look at some of the files that are out there, there's things to do like, okay, so you go to this planet and you've bought something or you've done a resource. Great. Now that you've done that, take this thing, place it over top of it, and you change what they're selling or how much, and it changes the economy of the game.
Well, he added the economy board in Embers.
Yeah, this one actually changes what they're selling though at the planet.
Oh, okay.
So the people have created all these things. They've created their own.
That's a neat idea. I don't think I'd ever use that rule because there are certain planets that are defined by their industry, right? Like spice, the Arrakis with the spice planet. It does spice kind of thing, right?
Yeah. But I mean, there's so many different things for like different people have created the Sol system that you can introduce into the game, so you can include more planets. And then there's also in the with the development kit.
That's the other issue. If you use as many tiles with the Embers ones, sometimes it can take a while before planets that you really need show up. Because you can have 8 or 9 mission cards, none of which you can activate because none of the planets have shown up.
Yep.
And that could be tricky as well.
Well, and that's where the development kit came in handy because you could actually introduce empty systems, which helped make the board bigger, I found, which also then helped give the game a little bit more playability because it's just, okay, so how much dead space do we want to introduce to the game, or do we want to have everything all smacked together really tight?
Yeah, more dead sectors would have been interesting because once again, the way you create your tiles can tell you the story that you're playing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I would like. I would like more tiles, but I'd like tiles in a specific combination to tell a specific story that the game wants to tell. And that's where I think where that sandbox, you see all these ideas for homebrew. It'd be nice if he read some of those homebrews and created expansions that did that. And I thought the Mission of Powers was like, that was the weakest thing you could have done.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen more tiles.
I mean, it would have been nice to do like a Star Control or Master of Orion where there's a unified event like that's affecting everybody, not a freaking race. But let's say there's a relic. We're all grading relics, but one relic activates something that suddenly turns into a grand threat. Like the closest thing you ever see is this comet that fires out of the there's a comet, giant comet fires out of the central sun, goes in a random direction until it hits something. And if it hits a planet, it'll screw over the planet because it'll cover up certain things and so forth. That's it. That's the only global event that'll change the board. That's the one thing. And if you don't draw that event, then that doesn't happen.
Yep. So yeah, it has a lot of scalability mods. Because I think like for this, it is, it's kind of that thing where if you play computer games, you download mods, and if you don't, I don't think you're really playing your computer games.
It depends. I mean, there are some games that people like to mod, but there's some games I don't like to mod because the game itself is strong enough on its own. Yeah. And that's, or maybe or in some situations you play the game to completion 100 times and then suddenly they're like, I want more of this. And then the only people that are contributing to it is the homebrew community because the designers don't want to bother. And that's... So, like I said, I love the game so much. I just wish there was... I don't need more game. I want variations.
Yep.
I know the extra components are good. I would not add any more components. I wouldn't add any more resources. I wouldn't add any more mechanics.
I add more tiles. More systems.
More systems, yes, with the mitigation that you don't run the entire map, because then it creates that randomization where you may have a dozen missions you'll never get completed.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right?
All right, so scalability, artwork.
The artwork is very, very good. Very digital work. It would be nice if he tapped like the 1970s kind of sci-fi art style of Chris Foss and Jim Burns and Colin Hay and so forth. But I like the work he did. The visual style is very reminiscent of that time. If you read the old TTA handbooks by Stuart Cowley, there's definitely, I think, a design aesthetic that's similar.
Yeah.
I think the boards reflect that. If you ever read Spacecraft, you know what I'm talking about. So I definitely love the art style. I don't think I have no issues with the art style whatsoever.
Yeah, for me, I like the art style. I think I agree with Sam Healy about, steering away from that 70s style of, what game is Alien Frontiers is a culprit for it,
Alien Frontiers
spaceships that look like a rocket. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah, well, there's a different era, right? That one I don't call that. That one's not. That's more of Atomic Punk 60s. There's a very. I was old enough to know this, but there is a very distinctive art style aesthetic that changed in the space sci-fi illustrating community between the late 60s and early 70s and then we hit the mid 70s to the 80s. There was a huge shift. On the 60s and 70s, it was still silver conical spacecraft. That's your Atomic Punk. That's your Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow.
Yes.
And I think that has its place in certain games. And I feel like all these board games are like, oh, we're going to do that. And they tap that aesthetic. Or they tap the new age, which is space is black, ships are silver. And I wished they would tap that early 80s Chris Foss, Colin Hay, Angus McKee aesthetic, which this game almost does with the colorful ships. The ships are very colorful. And that's why I think this, And if you want to see a video game that taps that early 80s aesthetic, Homeworld. Homeworld
okay,
2.
All right. If you're going to see... Yeah, okay. Homeworld was awesome.
Yeah, Homeworld directly states Chris Foss in the artwork of Colin Hay and Angus McKee in their credits. So they were going for that aesthetic. But
then again, Homeworld also had a really freaking good story.
Exactly.
Now, if you took Homeworld and turned it into a board game, I'd buy that. Take my money.
Yeah.
Take my money now.
Then it would have to have they would have to follow through with that story.
Yeah. But don't give me Deserts of Karak.
I like Deserts of Karak. I like it.
Let's not get off topic. All right.
Right, what's next?
Well, that's it because we already covered story. So then, what do you give this out of 10?
I give it an 8.5. I think the one thing I can't take it for a mechanic I'd like it to have. Right, so I'm not giving a knock for not having a story because that's not the intent. It's a sandbox like all these other sandbox games, so story is a bonus. I knock it back for that little bit of overt randomness that you have to pay to mitigate, and you may be a slave to that randomness for the first third of the game.
Okay, I give it a strong 9, maybe 9.1, or just a little bit over 9. I really enjoy this game. I'm sad it doesn't hit the table more, but
it's a hard game to set up. I mean, especially
you do Embers. Long time to
you get Embers. I think Caverna is shorter than this.
Yeah, well, that's
because the game doesn't pack very well.
Yeah,
because Caverna, you take out the Feast for Odin, and take out the tray. Boom, you're halfway done.
Yeah,
this game you got to unpack and sort because the box you can't sort everything very well.
So so that's 9.
Yeah. All right, then. So that's Gia, 8.5 for me, 9-ish for you.
Yep.
I'm in Chris.
I've been Dave. And remember, play the game how you want to play it. The rules are just a suggestion, especially with this game.